Hello, and welcome to Lang Gamers, the show where three language nerds play RPGs in various languages. I'm Aaron from Finkdom Languages, and I'm here with Dakota from Dakota Abroad.
Salut!
And Kevin from Kevin Abroad.
Salut!
They coincidentally have very similar names, but they're not related. So anyways, in this show, we're going to be playing a tabletop game called Monster of the Week. And in this introduction, or episode 0, as we call it, we'll be discussing how the game works and the formats that this podcast is going to take. And right up front, we just want to stress that you do not need to listen to this introduction in order to understand what's going on in the following episodes. So if you just want to listen to gameplay and language discussion, then you can skip this episode entirely and go straight to episode 1. The game is really just a story that we're telling together, and it takes the form of a conversation. And you definitely will be able to follow along with the story, even if you don't understand all the rules of the game. With that said, there will be some times during the game where we'll roll dice to find out whether we succeed or fail at certain actions in the story. And if you want to understand the rules and guidelines that we're following to dictate how we play, that's what this introduction is for. So with that said, we're going to discuss a little bit about how we're going to incorporate language learning into this game. And we're not going to focus too much on language instruction or anything like that, but we're just language nerds. We're friends and we like to do things in other languages. So I and Dakota are both, I and Dakota? Dakota and I.
Hey, get out of here with that prescriptivism.
It has no place in this podcast.
Yeah. So Dakota and I are both from America and we speak English, but we also both speak a little bit of French. And Kevin is from France and he speaks mostly French in this podcast.
I try.
So we probably all should speak a little bit more French, though.
Well, I try to do it a bit, but yeah, I mean, I find it quite fun because I make it a point of sometimes using phrases that are more like idiomatic. And I know that sometimes, I don't know, I like to test you guys on whether you would understand them. And then I think that's quite nice to give room for like, oh, what does that mean? And then I can explain sort of like the context in which we use that phrase and stuff. And I find it quite fun. I love doing that with my students.
Yeah. And I don't think the French in this series is overbearing, really, because we usually explain what we're talking about. And so even if someone doesn't speak French or doesn't have a very high level of French, they'll probably be able to follow along with pretty much everything that we're doing.
Yeah, and especially because it's really, really late at night for me when we record it, because I live in Japan, and so we're often recording at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. And so a lot of the times when there's French spoke, I'll repeat it in English to make sure that I understood what was being said if I'm not sure.
Right.
So if there is some trouble with the French, that might help people as well.
And also just to reassure everyone listening to this, I also try to not speak very complex French. I try to simplify it a bit, and I try to speak a little slower as well. Just to not make it too advanced, basically. So yeah,
because remember, we are dumb Americans, so we're not very good at other languages.
Yeah,
that's exactly why I do that. No, I'm kidding.
And also, we've mentioned that, we have a native French speaker on our team, and we'll be speaking mostly French and English to one another. But we all also can speak at least more than 2 languages. So we'll include other linguistics and other language discussion into our podcast. And also, we have discussed bringing in guest speakers or guest players who are other YouTubers and bloggers and podcasts and things like that, who may speak other languages other than French or English.
And, I've also suggested that maybe we get a third player, a fourth person to the podcast, because a team of 2 is fine, but a team of 3 is really where things start getting interesting in tabletop role-playing games, in my opinion. So we're open to that idea, but we're not going to let any old person in here. Only young people.
Exactly. We're ageist.
Yeah, we're ageists.
Many of the episodes will probably just be the 3 of us, but we'll also include other people and get different experiences and different people from different languages and things like that to keep it interesting.
At least that's the goal.
Yeah.
We'll do our best.
Gambate.
Que pâté.
And at first we like weren't entirely sure how we were going to incorporate languages into the podcast. We were like, are we going to have one character who only speaks French or something, or like one character who doesn't understand English in game? Eventually we just decided that it's not going to be about what the character knows in game. We're just going to speak French and English to each other as we're playing. And we're just assuming that the characters in the game all understands whatever language we're speaking.
Yeah, like there are some times when we make a point of mentioning something about the characters speaking French, but generally speaking, it's just we're speaking whatever language we want to say the sentence in. But sometimes for comedic effect, we'll bring note to what we're doing.
Yeah, we also make a point to kind of discuss language usage and linguistics, because we've all studied linguistics in university, and we all have degrees related to that field. So we take a little bit of time to discuss that sort of stuff.
And we love
horror story. Kind of. Is that? Would you say that's accurate?
Do you mean the game system or the game that we're playing?
According to the rule book, they kind of tried to give the game that feel. Yeah,
it's got like a sort of darker version of as you mentioned, Buffy or Scooby-Doo.
Right. So the format of the game is that every individual game is essentially like an episode of Buffy or Scooby-Doo. It takes that style where there's a new monster that the team needs to work together to figure out how to defeat.
Wait, is that why it's called Monster of the Week?
That is indeed, from my understanding, it's why it's called Monster of the Week.
Maintenant je comprends.
Ouais.
Bien joué.
Anyways,
something that I think is interesting to note is that, because that's how I identify as a linguist anyway, we're not gonna try to say this is how to say it or this is wrong. We're just gonna try to be sort of objective and not give that kind of judgment, especially because sometimes, because Aaron, the French, it tends to lean more towards Quebecois French. Yeah. So it's quite interesting sometimes that we compare the varieties, but we're never going to say this is wrong or this is stupid, or we're not going to make that kind of judgments, because I just don't agree with these judgments.
Right. Yeah, and I think we can all agree on that. During the game, we are probably going to do seasons of 3 to 5 episodes apiece that will be us hunting that will be our characters hunting one monster, and then that'll be sort of a story arc, and then we'll end it there, and then have a next season that's going to be another monster that we're hunting. So each season will be one mystery. So the way this game works is that there's one player called the Keeper, and I don't know if we should even call the Keeper a player, because they're not actually playing. They don't have a character. They're just flowing the game and make sure everything goes according to plan. Right, the Keeper is the one that comes up with the story that we're going to play our way through.
I wouldn't say that they make everything go according to plan. I would say that they have a plan, and then the players fuck it up, and then they have to find a way to get it back on course. So I, Dakota, am the Keeper, and my job is sort of not to like make them go a certain way, but I've got many various ideas, and they get to choose to do whatever they want and fuck up my story, and then I've got to make it work somehow in the end.
Yeah.
And if we lost, we ask you what we can do, maybe if there's anything we've missed, or you just kind of keep us on track, right?
And our job as players is not to go along with what Dakota had planned. Our job is just to play out the game, play out the story in the way that our character naturally would.
Yeah, so we're sort of working together. I have an idea of where I want it to go, and then their characters will react to what I put in front of them, however they want to react to it, however they feel their characters would. And then together, we try and weave this together in some sort of semblance of cohesion and hope it works out. The premise of our story so far, what we have is the CMC, the Center for Monster Control, and in it there are various agents, and we've each created our own agent. Well, I'm the director as the Keeper, but the players each have their own character. In theory, we could change out these agents for each mystery if we wanted to, so we could play various characters, or we could just keep using the same ones over and over again. What do you guys plan on doing for that?
Just play it by ear. I like the character that I created. Might keep reusing him, but could create another one in the future if it's fun.
Yeah. Well, I think what could happen is that we can change characters, then go back to the previous one, and just whenever we feel like changing, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it would be best if we mostly stick to our main characters, but obviously we don't have to because we've built the game in a way that if one of our characters dies or they need to go off for some reason, we've got a plethora of people to replace them with. So
yeah. And the way that character creation works in this game is that there's a few different character classes that you can choose from. Usually there's some kind of trope that's in like that you find in horror films or TV series. Like the Wronged, who is basically the Punisher, and his family was killed, and he's that cliche. And each different character class has different strengths and weaknesses. They have different attributes.
Doesn't the rulebook even give you ideas of what this sort of character will play out like? It has, like you said, the Wronged is like the Punisher. Doesn't the book even list characters in popular media that this archetype relates to? Yeah,
they give you a lot of examples from pop culture that you might be able to relate your character to. Like The Chosen is like, I don't know, Buffy or someone, right? So each character class that you can choose for the character that you're playing has different strengths and weaknesses and different abilities and special moves and things like that. And you get to choose some of the stats that they have. And every character has different ratings, which is those are charm, cool, sharp, tough, and weird. And your character can be better or worse at each one of those.
We might publish the our character sheet, maybe.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
So people can refer to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could share that on like a Google Doc or something and share a link to that.
Mm-hmm.
But charm being like, obviously, how charming your character is, how charismatic they are. Cool is not like how, I don't know, not like how popular your character is, but how they keep their cool in stressful situations. Sharp is like how well they notice things, how observant they are. Tough is pretty straightforward. It's like their power. And weird is like how eerie and supernatural they are. Like, so it has to do with magic and like resistance to magic and things like that in game. And then we use those ratings throughout the game to boost our dice rolls. And we have just 2 simple 6-sided dice that you roll throughout the game to determine whether you fail or succeed at different actions. We use those ratings throughout the game to help determine whether we fail or to help determine whether we succeed or fail at certain actions that we want to take. And there's 8 of those actions, 8 moves that you can use that require dice rolls. And those are kick some ass, which is like when you're fighting a monster or a bystander or anytime you would need to fight someone. And that is related to your tough rating. Act under pressure is just when you are in a stressful situation and you need to do something quickly. You roll dice to see if you succeed in that. And your cool rating is added to your dice roll. There's help out, which is when another hunter or another player is rolling dice and they fail, you can roll a help out in order to give them a +1 to their dice roll. Investigate a mystery just allows you to ask certain questions to the keeper, like what happened here? What sort of creature did this? Is it dangerous? Where did the monster go? That sort of thing. To investigate a mystery, you add +sharp. So whatever your sharp rating is gets added to your dice roll. There's also manipulate someone, which uses +charm. And that is related to when you're trying to convince another person to do something, usually a character that is not a player, but like an NPC in the game. There is protect someone, which is used to prevent harm to another character, and you would add your tough rating to whatever your roll. There's read a bad situation, which is just looking around to quickly determine if something is dangerous. You're reading a bad situation. And you can ask the keeper things like, what's my best way out? What dangers are there that I haven't noticed? What's the biggest threat here? What's the most vulnerable to me? And you add your sharp rating to read a bad situation roll. Then the last one is magic, and that's just you're essentially casting a magic spell, and you add your weird rating to that. And I guess it's important to mention that in this game, since you're only ever using six-sided dice, we use the same system for determining whether you fail or succeed at any given action. So a 6 or lower is always a failure, right? And then Dakota, if we roll a 6 or lower, Dakota gives us some kind of repercussions for the action that we were taking.
Yeah, when you roll a 6 or lower, you done fucked up.
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
going to fuck your shit up.
Right. So like if I'm trying to cast a magic spell and I roll a 6, it backfires on me and you know, my fire blast comes back and burns my eyebrows off or something.
Oh, just your eyebrows, you wish.
Well, that's up to Dakota.
Also, this failure system is actually how you gain experience and level up in the game as well. When you roll a failure on certain tasks, then you are able to get an experience point. And when you've got enough experience points, you level up and get more abilities or better stats and things like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that relates very closely, in my opinion, to language learning, because it's all of your failures that you base off of to improve and get better. So
that just made it very deep.
Yeah,
I agree. Actually, I agree.
And kind of cheesy, but I don't care.
That's just so you, Aaron, to be cheesy.
Yeah. So a 6 or lower is a complete failure. 7 to 9 is a mixed failure, which statistically, 6, 7, 8, 9, those get rolled a lot if you're rolling 2 six-sided dice. So 7 to 9 is a mixed failure, and that means you succeed at what you're doing, but there's some kind of consequence. And Dakota is usually not merciful when dealing out consequences either.
No, it's more fun when there's more drama.
Yeah, and that's part of the game. You got to make it scary and you got to make it intense. And then a 10 to 12 is a complete success.
These are my least favorite.
Right. Complete success just means we accomplished whatever we were trying to do, and Dakota can't do anything to us.
Now, what we're saying here makes it sound like I'm like against the players in the game. I'm not really. I just think it makes the game more fun and exciting when bad things happen. I personally, when I'm playing as a game, I love it when bad things happen too.
Yeah, and that's the role of the keeper, to keep the game interesting. All right, so I guess that's all the rules that someone would really need to understand the basic concept of the game. Do you guys have anything to add?
Well, just if you're not familiar with the game, don't worry. Like, we'll probably explain as we go along, and it should be sort of self-explanatory, or we'll try to make it so. So yeah, don't worry.
We at least mention like what we're doing as we do it in the game, so it won't be that big of a deal.
Also, half the time we don't know what the hell we're doing either, and we're making it up as we're going.
True.
So.
Yeah, we don't always follow the rules of the game to the T. Anyways, thanks for listening to this first introductory episode. We hope you guys enjoy it, and we hope you enjoy the future coming episodes of this podcast. Thanks for listening.
Salut.
Salut.